Hi, Zach. How are you?
Mm-hmm. You had enough, huh? You've had enough. You've had enough of the fun color T-shirts. You're back. You're back to starting the streak. Is that what we're doing here?
I don't know.
You have enough habits, Tim. You have enough streaks.
I don't remember what I wore last episode, but old habits die hard, I guess.
I would say the last 3 to 4 episodes, you've worn a more colorful shirt than
an array of colors.
Yes, an array of colors. Yeah. I only have black T-shirts, if anyone's wondering. So that's all you're ever going to see me wear.
Yeah. I mean, that is the most popular color that I have in the closet. And
I went to an event last night and someone's like, "What are you going to wear?" I was like, "What am I going to wear? The same thing I always wear." Like, there's no brain cells being lost in the thought of what am I going to wear? And, it's just happened by chance. I didn't used to have all black T-shirts, but that's what we do now. And it's just easy. Okay, that's what you're going to wear. Cool. Is it cold out? Cool, wear jeans. If it's warm out, wear shorts. Got it. We're done.
It does make life a little bit easier, right?
Yes. Yes, it does. So how you doing?
I'm good. We're still in the midst of the flurry of the dynamic duo.
Yes. They're now arriving in people's mailboxes.
Yeah. And so when I made the trip to the mailbox yesterday and
it came to your home.
Well, to our business address.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess that was a first. Open up the mailbox and then the magazine with the picture of you and I on the cover. Pretty.
I was not anticipating. Tom Marsden of Marathon brought a copy for me to sign last night. You weren't there.
Did he do that for real?
Yeah, I was like, okay, whatever. So I sign it. And then I open it because I still have it. I mean, I saw it last night, but I've only seen it this one time. I was not, even though I've seen like the digital version, I was not anticipating our spread to be the entire page, even though it was. And I like that picture to me is hilarious. So,
yeah, the whole thing was great.
Oh yeah.
So now, so it is really, really neat to see, and it is really, really nice to get all of the different text messages and emails and for those
people I'll tell you what people do. They're like, I think we talked about this last week. People are like, man, he jumped a lot higher than you. I said, this is no. That guy, he moved him up. Okay, he is 4 feet increased. I said, Tim and I are not eye level. I know I jumped at least 18 inches there, and there's no way you're jumping 36. So I like to thank David, the photographer, who edited that picture up to even it out.
I think that we need to get David on the show at some point just to find out the truth.
I mean, I know the truth. I was there. Wendy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great today. And you did not put this in the intro email for me, but I did wear black. So we're all wearing black today.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. We started doing this because, I don't know, Zach, maybe we were in a different photo shoot several years ago, but one of the instructions was, to wear something that is not going to be seasonal. You couldn't identify what season is. So that we just, for me anyway, I started wearing black T-shirts just so that way, if it was in the summer, winter, spring, or fall, it was just all kind of that turned out to be the uniform. That's the backstory of
seasonal. That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Maybe that's the story and I'm just forgetting, but
I just didn't know that there was another color.
There's not. Yeah. You know, what's funny is I do not like black, the color. Like it's not on my top 10 list. Like it's probably not on my top 200 list, but it's literally what I wear almost every single day, which is obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. I'm there with you.
So I've known you for 14 minutes at this point. I'm excited about the show. I know Tim is as well. And these shows are always unique because when one of us doesn't know the other, it's kind of like going to a coffee shop and just recording the conversation to see where it goes. So
yeah. Well, the other thing that's interesting is Wendy has her podcast as well. So Zach, do you feel any pressure that we conversing with a seasoned podcaster as well?
No, I never feel pressure. Come on, Tim. Like someone, so you know what's funny is like we talk about reps all the time. Like the key to everything is reps. Like do a lot of repetitions. And someone last night asked me a question. I was like, look, just start doing it. It will get easier. And then they did it for a couple of days and they were like, it actually got easier. I'm like, see, I told you. Like you have to do this. Just do the thing a lot. You know, sometimes we'll go good, sometimes we'll go bad. But no, I don't get pressure from this. Not anymore. Maybe at some point. Nothing against you, Wendy.
Sundays with Wendy.
You get pressure, Tim? You feel the pressure?
No, but the thing that Wendy's been at this for, and we'll get into all this, but amongst other things, but Sundays with Wendy has been out since November of
2020.
2020. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like these Zoom boxes, you know, like the Brady Bunch squares, you know, people are talking. I think it's helped a lot of people feel a lot more comfortable in speaking situations, even on shows like this, because they're so comfortable talking to another person, you know, digitally, where I think 10 years ago when people started recording, you know, audio, video and audio shows like this, they would get nervous. But I think because of the pandemic, that's a positive thing where people have become more comfortable in speaking situations and doing shows like this. So I think that's a positive aspect.
Was that a stretch for you, Wendy, out of your comfort zone when you decided that, hey, I'm going to give this podcast thing a try?
It 100% was. You know, in my career prior to starting the foundation, I operated a CPA firm. So I would, during COVID, it wasn't unusual for me to get on Zoom calls and speak in front of boards, delivering accounting information. But to be a little more vulnerable about my personal life, it totally was. So one of my dear friends and one of our founding board members suggested that we start a podcast. And that first season was very much just, impromptu conversations and how I started the foundation. So my dear friend, her husband actually did the music intro for me, David Carden. And that's how we got started. So after that first season was over, I kind of sat with it a minute and I thought, maybe we could really turn this into something that is a resource. Because I do like to advocate for families and children when they're going through treatment. So we have since completed 10 seasons, almost 100 episodes, and topics of caregiving, grief, interviewing healing arts therapists. I've done some, I did 2 seasons where I spoke a story. I told Ben's story over season 3, and then I did something called the Healing Guide over season 8. So yes, it has been a bit out of my comfort zone, but now I think I can say I'm not. It's very comfortable.
Have you ever been a meditation narrator? You have like this soothing voice.
Thank you. No, I haven't, but I have, had several mentors that were meditation coaches. And so I have, no, I have not. That's interesting.
I'm just thinking of like some of the sessions where, I'm getting on my like, and I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know. I was just mentally putting my place. This terrible thing where I wake up in the middle of the night, then I have to open up the Calm app and turn on a sleep story and help me fall back asleep. Just my brain is, yeah, I'll throw my AirPods in and listen, because my brain just keeps on going. It just if I don't even know. My brain's going even when I'm sleeping. Then if I wake up to look at the time, then my brain even goes faster. And then I'm like,
do you spend time away from a screen before you go to bed?
Yeah, and I think that I think my deal is, and this was not part of the show by any stretch, but when I fall asleep, and I crash so hard that it's like I instantly go into deep sleep, and then like a few hours later, my body's like, "Hey, let's go. It's time to turn this thing back on again."
What does the Oura Ring say in that situation when you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning? Do you ever check
it shows that I'm awake, and yeah, my sleep score will suffer as a result. Yeah.
So your instinct is actually incorrect. according to.
Oh, 100%.
Interesting. So the foundation is started in 2018.
In 2018, yes. Mm-hmm.
And what's the backstory there?
Sure. So my son Benjamin was diagnosed when he was 5 years old. This was in 2013 with a rare cancer called neuroblastoma. So we, of course, sought treatment here locally at CHKD. But during that time, there were also specific treatments and methods going on at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. So we traveled during those 3 years between the two hospitals very beautifully, actually. We were very lucky to have such great, wonderful care here, but also, care in New York. So when we were in New York, we were exposed to something called integrated medicine. So this was a program line that was offered to us. Mainly, we used dance therapy and meditation as part of Ben's treatment. So when I'll never forget the day I was sitting in the clinic, and there was I was just this curious, observant mother, and there was a child that was completely out of control. I mean, the nurse couldn't handle him, the parents couldn't handle him, and they were trying to get him accessed. And so there was a guy walking across the clinic in a black outfit, and he had a red glove. So you could tell he was a martial arts person. And he just gently walked up, held his glove in front of the kid and said, "Give me 10 kicks." And the kid started punching the glove. And it's almost like you could see the anxiety and fear just diffuse. In that simple few moments, the parents were able to regroup, the nurse was able to regroup, and they were able to have the child access and able to have him have treatment for the day. And I thought, well, what is this? This is really interesting. And so the same guy was also helped us with meditation through the years, but bringing that complementary service into a situation in a pediatric cancer setting really changed the story for us. So what I like to say, my ex-husband had a big radio career, music career, and my son was very much a fan of music. I'm an old ballet dancer. I still dance, do ballet now. But so these sorts of things are very natural for us. So we were like, yes, bring them on. We'll take them. But what it did when we had the dance therapist come in and work with Ben during his treatments, it really diffused the anxiety, and we were allowed to be 100% present with him. So what it really did was show me that, yes, it was really for the child, but it was also for the caregivers. And then the ripple effect of the way I saw the staff embrace us differently when we were doing these things. So, it was something that I held very close and a very important part of that journey for us. So when Ben passed, it took me a couple of years to decide what I was going to do. And it had to be true to him, and it had to be true to his story. And I would volunteer. I signed up to volunteer at CHKD, and I was walking the floor. And one day it just dawned on me, this is the void. Why can't we bring this here? So I can kind of proudly say, after long years of advocacy, we have a Benjamin Goldberg playroom on the 5th floor oncology unit of CHKD, where they now have music therapy, art therapy, yoga therapy, all these modalities going through that playroom, not only for the children, but for families and for staff. So it has really been I didn't know that we could accomplish all of this in the beginning. It was my hope and dream. But I can proudly say 6 years later that we have accomplished it. And I feel grateful that we can support other families when they're going through the same.
Is there anything unique about why movement and sound is something that helps in, or how they figured that out? Because I mean, you see a family struggling with something like that, and I guess you just try to calm the person down. It'll be okay, or something like that. Maybe yelling at the kid, in many cases. But what have you found that movement and sound was the thing that helped fix this, or made it easier?
Well, I mean, I think there's over 10,000 published articles now on sound and health. And I mean, I could go off on a million topics about that, but it is proven that sound does heal. And, right in our backyard, Edgar Casey said, music and sound will be the future of, or the future of medicine will be music and sound.
I had never been
And-
there until like a month ago. That place is wild.
Yeah.
Like on the third floor, like I can't imagine like what that would have been like without homes way back when. But that whole thing is fascinating. Tim, have you been there?
No, I've not.
Oh yeah, it's like 80
Yeah, there's a meditation space, and you can walk the labyrinth.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's really cool. Yeah, so
Anyway.
I think we're in COVID. Actually, I think has pushed this forward in the way that I think people are much more attuned or looking into their health than prior to COVID. So then the availability of having these other things outside of Western medicine, so kind of like an East meets West approach. So of course you're going to do the Western medicine, the protocol, but when you bring these other things in, I think they're finding that the healing is much more rapid.
Well, it's to me, it's just it's amazing that this did not exist before you took the initiative to introduce this.
Oh, I was very vocal about it for a long time. And they were like, yeah, Wendy, yeah. That sounds great. What you do in New York, but this was prior to his passing, but it just became something that I had to do. Like, it wasn't a question of not doing it. And, I was running my CPA firm full time, and this was something that, I've always done kind of on the side. But it was very important that this message get across. And I think when I speak about it, people can really connect to that. And oftentimes when I'm in front of a group, people will come up to me and say, oh, my mother is in assisted living. And oh my gosh, I didn't know these things existed. Or my daughter is dealing with anxiety. So our mission is to empower and support people, or empower and support children and families on their medical journey. And I made that broad on purpose, because I felt like, yes, I saw this through the lens of a pediatric cancer family and pediatric setting, but I knew that these things could help other people as well. So that was kind of the reason, the mission was broad like that. I wanted it to have an umbrella, because I do think there are other, from what I'm hearing from people. And as we're going along, our message is kind of involved. A few years ago, I said, I'm always thinking about the message and how can we connect with people. So we decided to talk about pillars. We talked about creating inspirational environments, developing and supporting arts and health programming, and being a community resource, which we have things in all of those buckets. But just, recently I felt like, it kind of went back to me in the room with Ben, with the dance therapist, when he was getting his treatment. It was kind of like, it's child caregiver, which could be the family and the staff, but it's also the community at large. So I really think our message has evolved over time.
Well, and over the course of those years, I just can't help but think that this is one of the most visited rooms within CHKD that people take advantage of. Do you have any numbers or anything to support that hypothesis?
Yeah, well, this playroom is actually specific for the hematology oncology patients. So, those patients need a safe place to play. So to my knowledge, other children that are at a hospital do not come to this playroom. But we do know that the unit sees over 5,000 hematology oncology visits a year. Yeah. And another cool thing I got to do through the playroom, and this was kind of after the playroom was installed, if you will. Ben was a big fan of the Beatles and met Ringo Starr on his Make-A-Wish trip. And during that last year, he was fascinated with the Beatles. So I saw over social media, Birdland Music posted just a simple post that the Beatles were going to re-release the Let It Be album. And immediately I just saw this light. I saw this sign, and it had a light on the side, and it said, Let It Be. And I said, I wonder if they would put this in the playroom, because then I spent so many nights in the hospital. A lot of times if you have a child in a hospital, if you're lucky, it's acute and you're spending a night and off you go. But when you're in oncology, you could spend 3 days, 10 days, 13 days, 28 days at a time. And I always thought it would be cool if there was just an inspirational little something. And it was very important that it glowed at night, and it says, "Let it be." And then there's a little dedication to Ben at the bottom. It says Benjamin Goldberg was a patient at CHKD in 2018. And his favorite song, one of his favorite songs, "Let It Be" by the Beatles, is a gentle reminder to, I might be messing this up, but a gentle reminder to embrace all that encompasses the here and now.
Wow.
So it does make me feel good that they're in, and they said yes. I mean, they could have said no, we don't want this sign here. But they let me do it. So
do you think the Beatles would be popular today?
I do. I mean, there's something very timeless about them.
I mean, I love them. My favorite song of all time is probably "Hey Jude." Like,
oh, really?
Probably. Like, did you know that, Tim? You probably.
No, I did not.
I love that song. I saw them in concert one time, Paul McCartney in concert one time, and that was like the last song that he played. And I'm like, oh, I love this song. I was like 7. But no, I always like question, like, would the Beatles and other bands, where would they, be in today's musical love or hate? But I don't know. What's your favorite song, Tim? Wendy, what are your favorite songs?
From the Beatles?
Anyone. It doesn't have to be the Beatles.
Imagine.
Okay. It's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like, to me, from the Beatles side, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, like that album was like that just changed the face of music for the most part. In that when you look at that album and you compare that to, I Want to Hold Your Hand, it is just so different. I mean, it is just night and day. But that is an album that I could listen to. Like,
I dig that. All right, so business show. We talk a lot about business. Nonprofits. You hear stories, you see statistics about the challenges of nonprofits, and oftentimes they can raise one round of grants, but then they can't get another, and then they have to close because of that. How is the business aspect of having this worked out for you? What have you done to make it more successful? Walk us down that kind of roadmap.
Yeah, of course. In my CPA firm, 30% of my practice over the years was in nonprofits. I audited nonprofits all over the state of Virginia. So I definitely had, I guess I knew what I was getting into when I started this, and it is no, small feat. So what I have found is, yes, when you talk about the business aspect and fundraising, that is probably the most difficult part for me. Coming up with the message and the story and doing the pod, all those other things are more creative and fun. But when it really comes to the sustainability of the organization, yes, we have to look at funding, we have to look at grants, and the funding that goes, integrated programming that goes through the hospital, that is all philanthropy. So if you're a patient on the floor, the doctors and hospital cannot bill for those services. So it is 100% reliant on donations that come through our foundation, at least for that playroom. So it's very important. But, arts and health is becoming more of a mainstream topic or discussion when you're discussing it with potential health systems or organizations. So a lot of what we do is have to educate people about what these things are. So first, we did a lot of awareness. We recently had a Healing Arts and Medicine, Music and Medicine conference for doctors to educate them. They got CME credits for it. So, I think for us, knowing that we had to tell people what we were doing and the benefits of that before we could actually start raising a lot of money. So, that I think has been the challenge is, explaining what it is and telling people why we need it. Because we're not the food bank. That's very easy to understand. You're giving money and they're, having services and programs to put food on the streets for people who need it. That is so easy to understand. Ours is a little more complex.
And I get that schools have difficult choices that they make, but it seems like arts and music is something that constantly is getting cut from the budget, but yet we hear things over and over and over again about the importance of arts and music and what that brings, just in terms of creative thinking, problem solving, and everything else.
I mean,
it's so essential. Like some people say, oh, well, the arts and health, arts and medicine, it's cutting edge. It's not. It's been around forever. We're just bringing it back in.
Like, what's essential about history, though? Like, I'm not like as we're looking at the education system, it's like, well, like, what do I need to know the history? Like, there's so much history. It's like, okay, like I can go watch a channel on TV and learn about that thing. Why do I have to do it for 12 years? I don't know. It just seems like if we were to revamp some of these things, it's like we should really look at everything and really revamp things and say, why is this so important? Maybe an every once in a while thing. Maybe we put it in a little bit, but like, how much? Like, when was the War of 1812? I don't know. But like,
and now with AI, you can find out in 2 seconds. Right?
Yeah, but like, that's my point. Is like, there's so much stuff that you're like, why do I need that? And I question. I mean, I get it from a higher ed perspective, from like a college perspective, where it's like, okay, all these classes are actually how they're making more money, so that you get 16 credits a semester. Yeah. I get that aspect. And I think that's blasphemy itself, because I'm like, okay, like really, we should be putting people in whatever their major is and focusing as many classes as that. But as we're like taking away some of these things, like, let's get rid of PE and let's get rid of their creative things. Like, that doesn't really make sense. I don't know who's making these decisions. Like, let's remove some of these other aspects of it so that we're not in these situations. But, I'm just a rando in Southeastern Virginia.
Well, I'm a little nerdy, so I kind of did like history. So when I was in high school,
I'm
a local girl, Kempsville High School. My teacher asked me to go to history camp that summer, but I did not. Did not want to go that route, but I was a lifeguard instead.
I've never heard of a history camp, so that's fascinating. I like history. I just don't know that we really need to be spending as much time on it for as many years as we do. What's the real?
I know, when you think about, like, history is not going to help you get through a mental health crisis or where music and movement and learning how to work with your body, and it does. It's been proven.
So was this something that you experienced for the very first time as well? That you just, wow, you were exposed to this, and then it was just.
I don't know. I mean, like, so when I was pregnant with Ben, my ex-husband had a room in our house, like you called it a man land, and he had thousands of a man land. And so we called it the man land. And so he had a big, huge radio career. So there were thousands of vinyls that lined the floor. And it was like just being in a studio. And at night, maybe not every night, but I would go in there when I was pregnant and he would just play music and we would sit there. So I can't help but think that, Ben came out and it was music from the very beginning. So I can't, and it's been proven. Yeah. When you listen to music when you're pregnant, we actually have an article about it we have something called the Peace Out Portal. Our medical advisor writes very interesting articles related to all the things we do. And one of them is about listening to music when you're pregnant and the facts that they've tested. So if you want to check some of those out, they're really cool. But yeah, so I think it was just this natural thing for us. And I always exercised and was into health and detox and all those things way before it was cool. I mean, way, way back a long time ago. So none of this was new. It was like, oh, I didn't know that it could be part of your medical situation. And at Memorial, the integrative medicine, they round with the doctors. So it is actually part of your chart. So it is much more of a holistic view of the person in general. And, that's why this topic of that the foundation has been exploring over the last year or so. I was invited to a convening in New York City in April of 2023. where they were going to be talking about social prescribing. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come up there. I think I was there anyway. And so it was other nonprofits, healthcare institutions, insurance companies, doctors. It was started by 2 medical students who were in their residency and looked at each other and like, one was from Columbia and one was from Harvard. And they looked at each other and they're like, we got to do something because this is not going to work. This is not a sustainable system. Something is missing from this puzzle here. So this is really how the movement started. And they studied the social prescribing model in the UK, and they created this movement to bring it here. And I'll read you, the World Health Organization defines social prescribing as a means of connecting patient to a range of non-clinical services in the community to improve health and well-being. So let's say, Ben was in between scans for 2 months and he went to the doctor and the doctor said, Ben, we know you like music. And he would say, yeah, I love music. And they would say, all right, we're going to prescribe you actually a written prescription for music therapy or music in general. And you could take it to what they call a link worker or social worker. And then that person connects you with services in the community. And in a perfect world, it would be covered under insurance. So, there's just so much to talk about, but that is something that I feel like is a movement that's happening in the United States right now. And it's really fun to be a part of it. So we had a, an event this March, where we wanted to just open up the conversation with the community. So at Assembly in Norfolk, we did a movie showing of the Netflix documentary by John Batiste, American Symphony, where he talked about his music and his wife's battle with cancer and her leaning into art. And we just felt like it was a soft entry. And so after the showing, we had a 4-panel discussion from healing arts experts in the community. And the overwhelming response was they wanted more time after the movie showing to talk to the panelists. So we really feel like this is something that the community is interested in. And we are recreating the convening I went to in New York City here locally in September to bring together key stakeholders to see if we can, build some sort of sustainable model.
What was the name of that show?
It's great. American Symphony.
Okay.
Yeah, if your listeners haven't seen it, it's really good.
So where is everything now in terms of social prescribing? Is it still very much at an infancy state, or it's fascinating to me. And I think that it's really, really, it's cool in the sense of one being an outlet, but then, from the other aspect of it, if you are a music instructor of some kind, that may open up a whole different, for lack of a better term, revenue stream that they weren't even aware of. So is that catching on from that standpoint as well?
Well, I think we have a long way to go. I mean, I think we're just in these conversation building stage right now. And I think in other parts of the country as well. But, I sat at the table called Who Pays? Because I was like, well, who's going to do this? Because insurance, we're going to have to prove it. It just seems like a little far down the road for insurance, at least at this point. But I think it's going to be funded by nonprofits in the beginning to build the data. And we are looking for ways in which we can pilot studies or get information as part of our roundtable in the fall. But, when we had the experts talk after the movie showing, this stuff is already going on. We have a local organization called the Tidewater Arts Outreach. So they have creative arts therapists, but they also they have a roster of artists in the community, mainly music, and they go into elder care. So Westminster, some of the other facilities, and they provide music in group settings. So, there is programming that's going on. It's just not technically labeled under this big umbrella of social prescribing. So, our efforts are going to be, how can we just kind of bring the community together?
I've given a talk at their organization before at their annual meeting.
Oh, have you? Yeah, they're phenomenal. Kate over there.
Yeah, really. Gosh, that's really.
And it doesn't have to be necessary. When you talk about creative arts therapy, that is, music, dance movement, where, the goal in a setting like that is there's a therapeutic angle. Like they want there to be a therapy going on kind of behind the scenes, but the music, the movement, the art is the way into the patient, if you will. But if you have just a musician or just an artist, they can orchestrate the same thing with maybe a little knowledge about how to handle a situation if there were to be an expression that would come out with the music. Because like with it, sometimes you listen to a song and it can bring up a very good response, and other times it can bring up a very negative response or sad response. So, there has to be enough training, if you will, to handle a situation in a setting like that. But it doesn't have to be therapeutic. There is art, there's food prescriptions, there are nature prescriptions. It's a whole gamut. There's a lot of talk about it, and I think what will gain it the most traction is the mental health angle. They're studying social isolation for the senior community right now. That's that's very big. So
how do you take like statistics, data points, studies that you're talking about, and then collaborate that in your mind and say, okay, this is the message that I want to get out there that will help resonate with the people that I want to help. Like, how do you start putting, you said like the brand and the messaging has changed over time. I guess you got more stats, got more comfortable with what you're saying, you learn from it. Like, how do you start making that gel a little bit more? Like, what are you looking for from a feedback perspective? When you're saying something, is it something that just doesn't roll off the tongue? Like, in the medical world, it's always words that no one can pronounce anyway, unless you're a doctor. But like, how do you massage all that together to work better for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. When our board was in its infancy, I mean, they couldn't even say integrated medicine. They were like, can you give me one sentence to say? So, a lot of consideration has gone into our messaging. And, not only with our board, but I am very lucky to have such a great group around me. My executive administrator, she has a degree in arts administration. She also works for another nonprofit. I have a medical advisor on staff. So our Monday morning meetings are a lot of times just what do you think about this kind of thing? How do you think this would sound? And sometimes I run it by people. And then sometimes we just go out and talk and I see what the response is, but I think our messaging now is a little cleaner. In the beginning, I did not know, I just had I had a sweet story that I wanted to share. And, it was never anything that was sad. Ben lived out loud. So what the foundation did is in his honor, it will do the same. So I always wanted it to be about living, and it was never going to be about research or a cure. His cancer did not have a cure. And I wanted it to give people an inspiration on how to navigate something as traumatic as, a pediatric cancer. So, in the beginning, it was very much around him and his story, but now we see that these things can impact other people. And I think just over time, and the better I get at like you said, the better I get at talking about it, the better the feedback that we try to get. Part of the reason we don't get as much feedback as I would hope, or is where we are. So we don't have a center where we're doing things. We don't have a location people can come. So we're not doing programming of our own. All our programming is happening at other healthcare institutions. So because of HIPAA and other things, we don't always know. We know 5,000 people can go in and out of a playroom, but we don't know the impact necessarily.
Is that the next step, is to have something more?
Yeah, I think down the road. Yes. I mean, I think, we're all just working out of our houses at the moment. But I think and when we do events, they are in community locations, which has been great. I mean, Hampton Roads is an amazing collaborative community. And I think we are so because we each have such limited resources, and so we know if I can help another nonprofit, I am happy to. In any way that I can. So we're very, very lucky in that regard. But I mean, we would have to have a serious capital campaign, to do that, to have a center. So yes, I think we are still in this phase of building all the messaging, building the reason why. So when we are ready to go to the community and say, we are going to need this chunk of money to have this center, that, everything's lined up for that.
Just to wrap a bow on that real quick, like anyone that's listening, take that as you get out there, you talk, you listen, you take notes, you see what people are responding with, and then you keep doing it. You evolve with it. I think too many people try to get super cute to start instead of just doing it. And they're like, oh, it's not perfect yet. And it's like just get out there, see what people say, see what resonates, see what doesn't resonate, and then keep trying it.
I had no blueprint. Like I think the
blueprint is what you did. Yeah.
I mean, we knew we had a story, and Ben was very connected in the community. Jeff was a community person. I'm a community person. So we were very lucky that people followed our story and cared. But I felt very deeply that the message underneath of it needed to be greater. There was more good that can come from it. And it has shown that. But I am a very much a organic person. Like, let's just try it. I don't think there's big mistakes to be made, if you will. I'm not scared if we're going to do this. Oh, what will people think? It doesn't matter. The intention behind what we're doing and the message behind what we're doing is so strong. I don't think I can screw it up. I really don't.
Well, and that's one of the things that the last 2 nights in a row, working with groups of founders is trying to explain to them what you need to understand what your why is. And if you don't have that strong why to be the foundation for whatever it is that you're trying to do from the business sense, the days that you face that punch in the gut or punch in the face because you didn't get the client, you lost a sale, the why is what's going to get you up in the morning and keep pressing. And so from that standpoint, you just continue to follow the why, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, it'll happen when it's ready. And when I really think about it, we started in 2018 prior to COVID. So COVID threw a wrench in what we were trying to do. We were talking about this center early on, but COVID happened. Everything came to a halt. So we went to this virtual platform, which is now our Peace Out portal, which we are very proud of. And so that gave us an opportunity to develop that. But I do think that people now are much more accepting of the message and this idea of complementary therapies or modalities than they were prior to COVID. So some of it's just timing too.
Yeah.
I truly think 10 years ago, I don't think we had the traction.
There's a TED Talk that says timing is the most important thing in the survival of a business or the success of a business.
And it's really, really tough when you're up against big pharma that has so much money and it's just constantly getting drilled into your brain. For me, I mean, I would much rather, if I had the opportunity to music therapy, meditation, and all of these things, as opposed to like immediately going towards pharma to that does not have the test of time. Whereas what we're talking about here, I mean, that's been part of that Eastern culture for thousands of years. And
who doesn't feel better after you've taken a few deep breaths or after you've left a yoga class? I mean,
I don't know about the second one.
Are you not a yogi?
I'm just saying, I don't know that you feel good after you leave. I'm just.
Oh, really? You don't? Okay.
I feel like I'm in pain.
That's a good pain, right?
Are you still doing that thing? Are you still doing Ramwad, Tim, or whatever it's called now? Or did you get off the yoga?
I need to make. So this is where I struggle, and this episode's been great for me because, like, like the adage is like the people that say they don't have time for meditation are the ones that need it the most. And I know that I fall into that category, and it's just like, and even circling back around to what I was talking about earlier, like in the middle of the night, my brain is just going. And like when I sit down to do meditation, like my brain is just, I've got to get past going back to the breath.
Right. So I have one of my first meditation coach had a trick for that.
Yeah.
She said, if you have a thought, like if you're in meditation, you have a thought that is just won't leave, you just put it on a white fluffy cloud and you just send it on its way. And it, try, give it a whirl. It worked for me.
And it's
They say we're not our thoughts. Like they
Right.
come and go. We should just be an observer. We should just let them come and go.
Well,
Like,
and it's interesting. Like if I'm sitting in front of this these monitors and like I'm trying to figure out something, gosh, just get up on your feet and take a walk, and it's just amazing how the thoughts that you're looking for come rushing back, just to get out there and get moving a little bit.
mm-hmm. It's kind of simple. Life's kind of simple, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you gotta keep it simple, and that's what it. Gosh, that's the challenge for me anyway. Is keeping it simple and taking it as it goes. One of the things that I'm interested in from your perspective is like just listening to you today is you have the CPA aspect, so you're numbers oriented, but yet from the branding aspect. So did you have to learn to be like work from both sides of your brain, or have you always been kind of balanced in that regard?
Well, I'm definitely more balanced now, but I think like if I look back to my years practicing CPA, like I was able to kind of like hone in. Like if I needed to go into the financials and be analytical, I could, but I didn't stay there all day long. I'd come back out, and I was a very strategic. My mind is very strategic, so I liked planning out what was happening. I liked knowing what everyone was doing, and I was at a firm one time, and one of the partners, he called me Taxi. That was his nickname for me. Because I would just walk around, see what everyone was doing. I'd talk to my staff, and he goes, "You're like a taxi cab in New York City. You're just all over the place." And I was like, well, I'd like to see what people are doing. Because I'd like to teach too. I'd like to tell, like if I was given a job to let's say a staff, I would say, here's a client, and he's a car repair shop, and he is going to hide all his personal things and office supplies. You give people make it fun, So I think I was always, I like to be fun. People loved to come to my office because it was all kinds of cool stuff. There was cool art and cool chairs. And I don't know, I always like to make things comfortable. I mean, you're going to be in this space for more than your home, so I don't know. I just had a different approach to a lot of things. But today, I'll have to shift. Like this morning, I got up and did some foundation stuff. And then this afternoon, I'm going to have to dive into a 1023 application for a nonprofit. So sometimes I have to maybe walk away, go get a coffee, come back, and kind of shift my brain a little bit. But
I think it's what
I don't know if that answered your question, but
no. It's just a unique thing that I seldom see that in people that are able to do both sides of the business.
But I think that's why this is working, right? Is because you have this analytical, numbers-minded focus, that you've been doing for so long. Where I think a lot who start a nonprofit don't have a business background. They're great at wanting to make this thing, successful and help others. But I think by having that structure from your past has been very beneficial. Yeah, and I think that's.
Yeah, and I think I'd done a lot of things up until that point. So, having a firm that people knew was good. In the hospital, CHKD, I chaired their development board for a number of years. And so I've been able to sit, in other seats as well and learn how to do this. And I still learn. Like I'm actually president of the Strelitz International Academy, the school Ben went to for 6 years. And their head of school is someone I highly respect. And I learn from her all the time, So I think it's just, it's a constant learning. And I'm just a curious person by nature. I always want to know more. How can we make it better? And right. When I went in my firm, I didn't do anything crazy, but once a year, I mean, this was early on. I said, I'm going to do one thing every year to make it better. And it was always around efficiency and ease. Like I wanted the clients when they got the email with the tax return, or it was very important to not only the product was delivered, but the way they got it. I called every client and went over the return with them. But when they got the return in their email, was it complete? Did they, went through a great deal of testing to make sure that they didn't have problems on their end. But so when we got to COVID, I was already remote. I mean, the concept of, I'd been in the cloud since 2009, and thank goodness, because when Ben was sick, we were in New York, oh gosh, probably 30% of the time. And I was working off hospital beds, anywhere I could work on my computer, but thank goodness we were already progressed enough. We were in the cloud. And, because of those things, and I don't know what people think about this, but my business actually, during those years he was sick, my business actually grew 30% during those years. So I think I was just always looking and trying to make it better.
And not afraid to try something new.
No. Mm-mm.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not afraid. I just don't have fear. It's just it's a chip I don't have, which can get me in trouble a little bit, but.
How'd you find the New York hospital?
Jeff and I called everyone we knew. I was lucky to have a lot of doctors as clients. We knew a lot of people in the community, and so we just called everyone and we said, "What do we? This? We didn't know what this was. I mean, whoever thinks you're going to get cancer or your child's going to get cancer? I mean, it's just not something that's ever on your radar and that's thrown in your lap one day." And so everything just pointed to Memorial Sloan Kettering. And he had a tumor that was wrapped all around his internal organs. And the advice at the time locally was, no, let's not operate. But we wanted a second opinion. And so we sent all the stuff up there, and the guy was like, yeah, I think I can get it. And, that was kind of the reasoning. And then they had a trial going on it's now what a lot of people call immunotherapy, but it was very specific for Ben's type of cancer at the time. So we went back and forth for those treatments as well. But they had a whole team of people that specialized in neuroblastoma, like a whole team. And I would be in the clinic sometimes, and I was amazed. I mean, there'd be people they'd have interpreters going on, Greece, Paris, wherever, I mean, all over the world, coming to just, be in that hospital.
I don't know. I've been in listening mode for much of this episode, and I'm just putting myself in your place. And I could not imagine, but, and at the same time, so grateful for you to step up and do the things that you are doing to ensure that Ben's legacy continues to carry on, but just the thousands of people that you are helping that have to go through that unfortunate experience that they don't know anything about. So it's just, wow, you're really doing amazing work. And for that, I so much appreciation for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I've said it several times, like we just want people to feel supported, when they're going through something, and if it's a sign in a playroom, or if it's a yoga therapy session, or if sometimes it's just holding a shelf for people, not that they might not ever use it, but that there's something that exists.
Yeah.
What's something we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Let's see. Usually I have a lot to say. I don't know. I'm just really grateful to the community. That they have allowed us to share our message, and CHKD was, our starting point, and they could have said no, they could have said, yeah, Wendy, that's a great idea. And no, thank you. So I am grateful to the people that knew us and believed in Ben's story and believed in Ben, and he wouldn't have had it any other way. I don't think so. And just to get a little spiritual for a second, I truly believe that he still comes through, and if the playroom is I was very vocal about this as well. I wanted it to be glass. I wanted the parents not, to maybe hang back and watch their kids in the playroom, not to have to be in the playroom and natural light, all the things. But, they presented me with the rendering, and it said the Benjamin Goldberg Playroom, just boldly across the whole glass. And I when I saw it, I thought to myself, oh my God, because he was bold and he was known. So all the things that are happening around this foundation have that same energy. They have his essence. And so, you know, I'm grateful to all the people that come together to help deliver that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the people that listen to this show on a regular basis, this is different. You are a much different guest than we normally have, but I'm grateful that you took the time to do this, because this is one of these topics that, unless you're researching it because you're in the moment, you may not be exposed to it. So now people are going to listen to this for the first time, and they may not need it today or tomorrow, but through the use of the interwebs, you know, they can go back and research this, and this will also serve for as long as the our shows are on the cloud as well. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on today. This was a treat for me. Whenever I get to share, it's also, you know, I feel like it, like you said, the ripple effect. It's going to reach people that I may not know, and I don't have to know. But,
yeah. And that was one thing you bring that up. That was an aspect where you having data to document the impact that you have, you know, and that's something that Zack and I experienced on our end from like a business incubator side when we both were in that world, was like, we really liken that to a playground as well. We don't know who's going to attend one of our events. It's going to trigger some sort of inspiration for someone that's going to go on 5 years later to create that business. So, yeah, we get that aspect, that you just got to keep out there, and you have that long-term view and goal set that you need to have.
Yeah. And some days are hard. It's not easy. Some days are hard. You know, I've many times said, you know, I don't know about this, you know, but you just keep pushing through, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're so in it, and then, you know, you get to a point and you look back and you're like, oh, wow, we did kind of do something cool. So sometimes it's just a little grit, you know.
100%.
Reflection is key, you know, to really look back in those situations. Yeah. Well, Wendy, we appreciate your time. Continued success. And
thank you so much.
Maybe I'll meet you in the flesh sometime soon.
Yeah, I'd love it. I'd love it. Thank you again.
Thank you.